The Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada continues its journey across Europe as the field of 40 contests a national championship with Porsche centers across Canada. Last week's outing in Austria marked the halfway point as we reached the 5th round of 8 here at Spa Francorchamps. Welcome to round 5 of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada from Spa. Hi everybody, I'm Kyle Heyer, joined tonight by Jake Sperry. Jake, welcome aboard. You got to watch the epic round at Sebring, round number 3. We're back here at one of the greatest racetracks in all the world here in Stavola, Belgium. Spa, welcome back.
This is the track that does absolutely everything. You put any type of car on this circuit, Kyle, and it's just magic. It works. It's one of the truly great all-around circuits, and we're in a region that couldn't be more prophetic, I would say, at this point. This weekend is the most famous bike race, the Liège-Bastogne-Liège, with Tadej Pogačar looking to take all 3 of the Ardennes Triple. This is a circuit that is beautiful. Every corner steeped with its weight in history and gold and everything else it can do. And you look at this circuit, you go all the way up to the top to Lacoum, one of the most amazing sections of track in Malmedy Corner, and then all the way down through the tight and difficult middle sector which leads to the Campus Corner and Stavolo, leading all the way back to that chicane which has been changed 1,005 different times. I think, Kyle, this is an incredible circuit and one which I think is going to be splitting, I think, the good drivers from the great drivers.
Well, I can't wait to watch this. We've seen the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada field race at these big fast tracks all over the world, and they race really well at these big circuits, 3 and 4 wide. We're going to see it all night long. Here's a quick look at the season standings as we approach this 5th round. Antoine Lacharité out of Porsche Center Lausanne, 329 points, swapped the lead after Racine Fazui had a less than stellar round at Austria last week, got himself turned back around, and the Team Rive Sud driver has dropped to 2nd place.
Well, this is the thing. You're allowed one bad round, and really, that's what these 16 races, these 8 rounds, definitely give you. The opportunity to have a bad race here and there, but you have the chance to bounce back. I do love the race on for 3rd. Phil Bouchard and Guillaume Levesque are there 3rd and 4th. They're going to be really close, just 5 points between them. And then you look down that top 10, you think, well, who's being really consistent out of the Porsche centers? I do like the duo of Suelio Almeida and Alex Ellis, 7th and 8th for Markham. They've been doing a really good job so far this season, Kyle.
Certainly. Suelio will not be here this week, though. He's absent, doing some real-world racing stuff down in Miami, so more to come on that, which is really exciting. He will miss round 5 of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. Vincent Trepanier out of Porsche Center Edmonton, climbing the standings, didn't make round number 1, but has been making waves at the front of the field. Yann-Ganon Renault has run very well, has not finished as well as he's run. I'm sure he'd like to vault the standings a little bit higher here. Qualifying is underway, though, Jake, as we head into this round. 15 minutes and 30 minutes are our 2 race lengths tonight, as always. And that sprint race has been pretty wild, but getting track position in race number 2 in particular has been one of the biggest challenges of this championship.
And no more important than here, you've got that long rise up the Kemmel Straight, which is one of the prime places to get it done. You also have that run, of course, all the way through towards one of the most important corners, that final chicane. Those 2 places are effectively going to give it that oval style feel, that plate track feel, where you're going to get a lot of switching and moving and passing, but you've got a lot of sections of track, especially that middle sector. That's going to be the place where you have to run away. The double gauche left, formerly known as Pouon, I think is going to be the most committed corner of this race. That fast-flowing left is going to be oh so important. But that 15 minutes on timer, that is until the session closes. And because we're in heat racing format here tonight, Kyle, the key for these drivers in qualifying is not 15 minutes to get a time, because you don't get to finish the lap that you start on when the clock expires. And with a long 2-minute 20-second lap time as Andrew Caron sets the first representative time on the board, these drivers are looking at, okay, I need to be across the line with at least 3 minutes on the clock to finish.
And the other part of this, they can't just stop the car and reset like you typically would here in iRacing. You have to drive the car all the way back around on a full cool-down lap, then pull into your pit stall, get a new set of tires, and go back out on the racetrack. You can't just reset and go. That's going to massively limit the number of laps that you can do if you want to have a fresh set of tires every lap out there. Although, Jake, I think we'll see drivers go for 2 or 3 laps at a time before those tires are just past optimal grip.
Absolutely, and one of the keys is not necessarily when you're dealing with these tyres a case of, oh, you've only got one lap and they're gone. They actually have to get the tyres up to an operating window, and that is the crucial fact. So we take a look at Guillaume Levesque then, driving through Lake Coombe into the Malmedy right-hander, and now at the very top of the circuit here, which leads all the way down now towards this beautiful Bruchel corner. You're down the hill, you're fighting grip every single time you go through, and in these Porsche 992s, you always got that one worry that the back end's going to step out ever so slightly through the speaker's corner left-hander, and now all the way towards that double ghost left here. This is where you need an absolutely committed car, and where the epitome of balance is shown.
Certainly, and the other thing we have to talk about here, especially at Pouhon and other corners, track limits are going to be a big deal here in qualifying, keeping the tires in the white lines. Make sure you don't go out of bounds. That will throw away a good lap, and there's so many corners here. The lap is over 7 kilometers. It's pretty easy to step a tire out of bounds and have to do it all over again.
And let's not forget that this Spa Francorchamps circuit in iRacing used to be so fearsome on track limits. It still is, but it used to be so tight on track limits that they actually relaxed about a couple of years ago the track limit boundaries around this track. It goes to show you that you want to drive well at the Circuit de Spa Francorchamps, you've got to drive it well within the lines. There is Antoine Lecharité, who is currently at the top, and at the top by a good 0.3 of a second at that as well, over teammate Guillaume Levesque. That's what you want to see in terms of those lap times, but they are pretty much at the whims of the track conditions here today. It is 38 degrees centigrade track temperature at this moment, and an in-sim time of about 2:30 in the afternoon. This track will cool as it goes on, but we are pretty much at the zenith of heat here in Belgium.
Andrew Caron heading down through Eau Rouge and up to the top of Radion, and then down that Kemmel Straight. Speeds here climbing north of 165 miles an hour there into, again, Les Combes, which is a great passing opportunity at the end of the straight. Big slipstreaming here. This is going to be like the for the U.S. folks, the plate racing of this championship. You're going to be in the slipstream here, and this is one of those races that you might find an advantage staying in behind the driver ahead of you, but we've seen so many teams up towards the front almost working together, maybe not directly helping each other out, but playing rear gunner, especially Guillaume Levesque and Antoine Lecharité. I think we're going to see a lot of that this round and in others.
Depends where they qualify, depends where they get the opportunity to race from here, Kyle. This is going to be a case where you could certainly say Guillaume Levesque's got that job in P2, as we see taking there Yon Gagnon Renault, going right up the endurance pit entrance, and I love the pink when it comes to this Porsche. It always gives me the reminder of that pig's carve out, effectively, that you used to have like a few years ago when it came to races and endurance. I tell you what, he's done well in qualifying, but you have to look back at car 58 because Rachem Fazouzi has decided, you know what, I didn't like what happened in Spielberg. I'll take the drive up to Belgium and say, you know what, first representative lap, 0.3 clear of the rest of the field. That's the Rachem Fazouzi we all know and love.
And he is locked in that championship battle with the number 21. He's following his teammate here, Phil Bouchard, in the number 73, who was dominant last week at Spielberg. But look at the gap he's gaining here, just leaving a little bit on the table, perhaps, as he follows the 73 into Les Combes. Good drive, good lap there. We'll see if it sticks for now. There's still a handful of minutes remaining in this session, but Rachem already in a good spot here for the start of this first race. But as we've seen, it doesn't really matter where you finish in that first race. You know you're going to get that field inversion of 10 drivers for race number 2. So win race 1, you're going to start 10th in race 2 and then have to pass people anyway. So qualifying will only really do you good in race 1 if you are going to start up front.
Yes, but what you have to remember is there's more points in race 2 than there are in race 1, so it's not a case where you can effectively sandbag in this series, say, oh, I'm going to race for 10th position and then go out and try and win the second race. It's not as simple as that, because you will drop a number of points by doing that, and that's why you need to have some great results up through the field, and why that invert is going to be really crucial later on in the races as they go through. The face of concentration, that's there. A little wry smile there from Rachem as he makes the charge through the campus corner, the campus of technology there on the inside of the corner there at that section of track, moving through Stavelot, where they've got the go-kart track over on the right-hand side, which is really crucial for the development of drivers. But this section right now, coming up through the curve of Paul Frere, heading over towards Blanchimont, this is the corner where all the load goes through the car, and going too wide through there is the equivalent of a death wish going through that section. You need commitment as you go through that section, and then this final chicane, a very tough double section. They're both going to take a very shallow line into the pits. This will probably be one of maybe two options that they go through as we focus on Alex Ellis in the Markham Porsche now, getting himself in the nice red flannel up the hill there through Radion.
Looking sharp and looking quick. 8th place right now for Alex Ellis without his teammate, Suelio Almeida, this week. They ran pretty much nose to tail last week at Spielberg, and that's kind of been the story of this Porsche Center Markham team. They have been pretty much with each other the entire season long. That is true even in the standings, as you mentioned earlier, Jake. So Alex, right now, without a teammate tonight, that teamwork might have come in handy here a little bit, so he'll be kind of a one-man show, but qualifying inside the top 10 is not a bad start if he can hold on to 8th place.
Yeah, it's not bad at the moment. He's got himself a little bit of a margin, I would say, a couple tenths of a second. It is close in and around the top 10, and if there's anyone to keep an eye out on as we go to the number 55 machine, this is Giuliano Romagnolo, who is out there just on the outskirts of the top 10 looking in, would be number 17, Matt Adams, out there on circuit, because he's a driver who, you put him up at the front of the field, he is the sort of driver who likes to stay at the front and will fight hand over fist with every bit of his being to make sure he stays there. Someone definitely to look out for in the Porsche Center Mark Motors car. And
his teammate, Etienne Leger, he has been a firework in race number 2s this season. Those second races with the invert, Etienne's been at the front of that invert twice. I think it was back at Circuit de Villeneuve and also last week at Spielberg when he was up in the front there, really playing defense while his teammate Matt Adams was on offense. But they too have also found themselves nose to tail quite a bit. And going back to the standings, if we look at them one more time here, Jake, it's been a really interesting season because so many of the teams towards the front, we've seen strength out of Lausanne, Rive Sud, and Markham and Mark Motors. Look at that. There's 3 teams that all have both cars in that top 10, which just goes to show you how much those teams are working together and finding similar pace each and every round.
I count 4 because you've got Etienne Leger, who is there in 10th position for Mark Motors. But it does go to show that having one driver certainly helps. Having 2 drivers is a lot more of a bonus. And there are prizes available for the Porsche Centers who do manage to pick up top 3 over the course of the season. And you're looking at those who are up in the top 4. I've been looking very interestedly at Fazui and Bouchard because Rachin Fazui got the run first and foremost. So they pretty much stay out of the way of everyone, looking to try and get a pocket of clean air to go and have a lap. It's now Phil Bouchard who's behind, and because we are in a heat format style of racing, everyone's on track at the same time. So teammates can effectively take turns relaying, giving drivers the tow around this circuit. And you're wondering what the tow is? It's slipstream. Basically, you get the car in front to punch a hole in the air, which makes the car behind go a little bit quicker when it comes to a straight line. And that effectively gives roughly somewhere between 0.3 to half a second over the course of a lap. It is huge.
On board now with Phil Bouchard in the number 73. Let's watch this run down through La Source. Really easy on the brakes here, but he's going to kick up this run in just a moment. On throttle now and heading down towards Eau Rouge. This is one of the most treacherous corners in motorsport. And these cars on fresh tires, warm tires, basically flat out here, Jake, but sometimes a little bit of a confidence lift will help you out. But you hear it just break just for a moment, but he's right back in the throttle now, chasing his teammate down the Kemmel Straight.
It's about 11 kilometers an hour that gets dropped. That's roughly about 5 to 6 miles an hour dropped when you go up that hill, because you're really fighting against the grip of the left-hand side tyre. Spot your braking marker. About 100 meters is the right time to get that going through the right, then the left, and then the right again. And you're getting a little sense here with Phil Bouchard that he is someone who is earning more and more experience as he goes along by his exploits here in the Sprint Cup Canada. He managed last season to join the Contender Series over for the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, which would have given him a vital experience compared to some of the very best qualifiers out there in the world. Didn't manage to qualify through the series, but I'm sure that he takes that experience and he is handing that out, and it's worth its weight in platinum, not less gold.
I was very interested at the end of the Kemmel Straight. We heard the RPMs drop to basically idle, and it sounded like he basically pushed the clutch pedal in and was coasting for right before the braking zone. Jake, you're very familiar with these cars in a high-performance, high-competition category. Here again here as well. Is there an advantage, perhaps, to letting the engine or the wheels freely spin before you hit the brakes? Because that transition from gas to brake, there's going to be a moment of engine braking that might slow you down infinitesimally enough, but enough to maybe make a difference over a 7-kilometer lap. Is that what's going on, or is there some kind of other play here that I'm not familiar with?
I'd probably look at stability. It's probably one of the reasons why you'd do something like that. It just takes away that aggressiveness that you get over the course of a lap between being right up there on the throttle. Give yourself a little bit of room on the clutch and then into the brake. It stops the rear wheels from locking more as you go out there and try and set a lap time. And you're looking over this lap. The lap time's definitely not representative there. So I think that might just be one of the things. I'm going to lift off into a couple of these sections, get a sighter lap, because what you really want to be running at in terms of pace to get the tyres into the best operating window possible, Kyle, is about 80% full throttle around the lap. That's where you're not scrubbing and wearing out the tyre, but you've still got that ability to go and really push. Because we are now at 3 minutes and 8 seconds, a lot of these drivers are on their final laps of this qualifying session.
This will be the last opportunity to put a time on the board. Let's jump down the field a little bit more and maybe talk about some drivers we haven't mentioned a lot lately. Justin Ream in the number 7 for Porsche Center Calgary, runs 18th right now, and Brody Goebel in the 69 car for Porsche Center Vancouver. The performance from Brody has really been hit or miss. Some rounds he's right up in the top 10 competing, and then others he just can't find his way up in qualifying, and it kind of buries him for the feature races. So Brody right now struggling a little bit in 19th place, but we'll see if he can perhaps run a little bit better once the race rolls around. Looks like he's got his teammate right behind him at the moment.
Yeah, and you certainly get drivers who find circuits which they're a little bit better at compared to other circuits out there, and it's all a bit relative sometimes when some drivers have a really good performance. You see the nugget that's there to say they've got talent and potential. It's just how you unlock it, and that might come down to practice routine. That might come down to, how they like the way that a car is set up. Look how much tail is pushed out over the AstroTurf there through the campus corner. He is really trying to open up as much of the track as possible, and he will know that on his delta that he'll have, how much up or how much down he is, and if he's pushing that much to try and get as much out of the circuit, he's on a pretty good lap.
Left a little bit of rumble strip left on the racing surface there. You'll see some drivers cross over those rumble strips and just keep the left sides. That's all fair and legal. Brody leaves a little bit on the table, drops to 20th place, but now will head into pit lane, and looks like his qualifying run will end, Jake.
Matt Adams is on the lap, though, and he's been usurped out of the top 10 by Theriault and Ellis and Hoverson. And over the line, it's the 2:19.7, not good enough to improve position. So that's a shame, really couldn't find the time. Phil Bouchard in the background, then coming over the line, puts a 2:18.614, so does improve on his time, but crucially not position, but it won't matter too much. Antoine Lecharité, we having a look at him. He's now in the pits because he's done a 2:18.304. He is 700ths clear over the course of this, and that is everybody done here, Kyle, in qualifying. Lecharité has found some magic.
That was an incredible lap, and Rasim Fazui down 69 thousandths of a second, but then it's almost 3/10 back to Bouchard in the 73. That's a pretty sizable gap for that 21 and the 58 over the rest of the field. But the one thing we do know about Spa is that once the green flag drops, that 2/10 advantage is going to disappear on the Kemmel Straight on lap number 1. So it's going to come down to racecraft and watching your mirrors and making sure to drive out the windshield, but keep an eye on your mirrors. That's a big challenge here. But we've seen how close this championship is. I don't think anyone's going to run away with anything, certainly not here at Spa with all the drafting we're going to see.
Certainly not. This is Christopher Cook on screen. He is going to run out of time to get a lap in. But what we do know here, Kyle, is that this is Spa, and it's the sort of place where the racing is big, the accidents sometimes can get bigger as well.
Well, that means that we're going to kick off our first race here tonight. Again, 15 minutes and then 30 minutes, so 45 total minutes of racing here from the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada, round number 5 from Spa Francorchamps. We'll head down to the racetrack here in a moment and bring you your starting lineup It is 38 cars deep, notably missing Suelio Almeida that we talked about earlier. There's some other drivers that are on leave this week, but it's going to be a fun one to watch regardless. A lot of the same names that we saw up front at Spielberg, but that can be expected. We've really kind of seen the cream rise to the top here at this fifth round, and we're getting close to the tail end of this season, and the championship is really shaping up already.
Yeah, the championship has been, and I think it's been really, really telling that you've got two great drivers in Le Charité and Fazuri who have been very much trading the wins over the course of this season, trying to prove exactly what it is that they've got. And you look at these two at the top here, Kyle, they're split by just, 700ths of a second. They are pushing each other to the absolute limits. And this is the sort of race where I think whoever can take the victory in race 2, not necessarily race 1, but race 2, takes momentum for the entire second half of the season.
I will vote on that as well as we head into our sixth round, which is going to be at America's National Park of Speed at Road America, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Then it's Interlagos and then CTMP, Mosport to finish out our season. So those are the subsequent rounds. Road America, another very fast racetrack, similar in some ways to Spa, maybe not quite as sweeping. Interlagos, though, a very different racetrack, but I think you're right. The momentum gained here is going to be a big deal coming out of this fifth round.
I think Interlagos might be the most exciting round. It's the only track I know in the world here, Kyle, that you can legitimately race an entire lap side by side. And every time I see racing around that place, it is great. But as the Porsche first safety car then takes off then from the curve of Paul Frere, we are going to be taking ourselves then around this circuit and giving each other what they want. Antoine Le Charité and Rachin Fazuri, top two then in control. Phil Bouchard will start from third. And what a qualifying by Yon Gagnon Renault in fourth position. He's right back up the pointy end where he should be. Guillaume Levesque and Andrew Caron will be fifth and sixth. Great qualifying by Chris McGrath as well. He starts seventh with Giuliano Romagnolo in eighth place. Vincent Trepanier is ninth, and Josh Manilow rounds out the top 10.
And in 11th place, it's Simon Theriault in the number 89. He starts in 11th place. Alex Ellis, without a teammate tonight for Porsche Center Markham, starts in 12th place. Then it's Gregory Hoveson in 13th place, the number 15 for Porsche Center Halifax. Matt Adams from Mark Motors starts 14th in the number 17 car. Etienne Leger from Mark Motors starts 15th. Blake Townend for Porsche Center Winnipeg, 16th in the number 57. Zoran Radosavec in the number 34, starts 17th for Porsche Center Winnipeg. Adrian Paluch in the number 70, starts 18th for Porsche Center Langley. Justin Ream for Calgary. Josiah Farrow, 20th for London.
We had a little look earlier on in qualifying at Brody Goebel, who is there in 21st. And I tell you what, Alex Bergeron is a mile down the order. I didn't expect him to be in 22nd for Club Quebec, but he's down there and he's got work to do. Giovanni Romano starts 23rd with Logan Pasha in 24th position. Then it's Christopher Cook and Enzo Johansson. They house the 13th row of the grid with Arnaud Genet and Nicky Chan, 27th and 28th. It's Nicholas Michel who will go from 29th, Club Oakville, and then from downtown Toronto, Liam Rudzitis rounds out the top 30 of 38.
And 31st place, Justin Nasir for Kelowna in the number 27. 31st place alongside Stephen Warcup for Edmonton in 32nd place. All the way back in 33rd, it's Adrian Werson, Matthew Junior Murphy. He's going to roll off in 34th place. Kevin Norris and Koja Lesbin start 35th and 36th. There's Jean-Philippe Dubois out of Saskatchewan and Romain Faux for Vaughan in 38th place. And that's going to be your 38-car field here at Spa Francorchamps as the field heads down into Les Combes, getting some tire temperature, some brake temperature, all for that run down through Eau Rouge and Radillon for the first time. Everyone kind of holds their breath on this opening lap at Spa, Jake. It gets pretty high octane pretty quick around such a fast track.
Well, it's almost like you get a false start when you go to the last source hairpin. It's the part of the circuit that you look at and go, okay, tight hairpin to start, short run on that straight, not really much to work with, and then you immediately have to sort yourself out single file. That's what I think the coordination of the drivers at the front will have to deal with. How quickly can they coordinate single file up through Eau Rouge and Radillon, and who's going to be the bravest driver off the exit of Radillon to take advantage up the entirety of the Kemmel Straight? That's going to be where you're going to see the big winners and the big losers out there, because that run up towards turn 4 and 5, Les Combes, that is the money section on the opening lap. Outside of that, you then settle down, get into the rhythm, because they're not really going to be racing too many laps out here. It's a 2:19 in qualifying, 2:20s in terms of the race. I'm looking at this going, this might be 7 or 8 laps only. That is not long to figure out what you want to do over the course of a race.
No, it's going to be about 7 laps. You're dead on with that prediction. There's other things to consider is that this championship, there are huge prizes on the line. A Porsche driving school opportunity is on the line for the winner of this championship, and plenty of prizes from Tag Heuer and Bose on the line as well for the podium finishers and for those of each race. So this is a big deal, as it always is here. Thanks for joining us on the Porsche Twitch channel. I'm Kyle Heuer, again joined by Jake Sperry tonight for round 5 of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada, and drivers letting the butterflies settle before they accelerate through the 6-speed gearbox and head down towards the first of 20 corners here at Spa.
This is where you get that build-up of nerves, that anticipation. You've got someone like Antoine Le Charité who will have control of the field when the safety car does pull off into the pit and will go on the drop of that green flag. Someone like Rasim Fazui, who's going to be on the outside, might be thinking about maybe trying to cut up and under off the exit at the opening corner, but he'll have to be very worried about the fact that someone like Yon Gagnon Renault is going to be a huge spanner in the works of this race. And don't count out everybody else. They're all going to want a victory. They're all going to want to try and make those moves quick as possible. But as they now head to that final chicane, Kyle, this is where the octane starts to ignite.
Behind the safety car, the Porsche 911 safety car, the 992 generation Cup cars getting set to do battle in round 5 of this championship, going for it all. Le Charité in the number 21, Rasim Fazui alongside him in the number 58. They head down towards the green flag, and we are racing at Spa in round 5 of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. The 21 gets away clean up the inside, though. Have a look at Phil Bouchard. Nice, easy entry to corner number 1 into La Source. So far, so good. 3 and 4 abreast down there through the first time.
It's a bottleneck, but everybody survives the opening section. Back up towards the front, a little bit of too wide as Levesque tries to pass Yon Gagnon Renault. Doesn't quite happen. Single file then. They go up through Eau Rouge and Radion. This beautiful section of track, but this is where you have to attack off the exit of the corner. And now this is where the Kemmel Straight becomes a huge matter of pride and principle. It's all about who's going to get themselves a good run. Not much too wide there as they go through, but it's all about who's the bravest on the brakes. And I think Romagnolo is one of them, and he's going to go around in the middle of the field. Everybody checks up.
He saved it somehow. I thought he was going to loop it for sure. Matt Adams tries to jam the nose of his Porsche up the inside. Alex Ellis is the roadblock there as they head now down towards Bruchel, and they're 3 abreast for a moment, but Adams backs out. Thought better of it here this early in this race. It is still side by each as they head down through. More contact happening behind them, though, and we're 3 wide again.
We certainly are, and they're going to have to try and sort themselves out here because this could very easily turn sour. Look how close they went. That was one of the Mark Motors cars there, getting almost right up to the wall there, running through. I think then that would have been Etienne Leger, who would have been pushed right out to the very extremities, the very limits out there. They've got no instant point limits over the course of this race, but Leger will look behind at Gregory Hoverson, going, that's how aggressive you want to race it. Another little look there behind as they go through. Leger actually will run wide. It was Alex Bergeron then who's going to try and look for a way through on Justin Reen, and that's going to be for position as well. You can see there the gravel on the outside there of
trouble! The 57 and Townend goes around into the gravel.
So that's Ream, and look at it, it's going to continue on the inside as well because 2 more have found themselves in trouble. Look at that. That is a junkyard on that inside. Number 4 getting caught up. Stephen Walkup, that's a real shame for him. He's someone who has a wealth of experience when it comes to racing. That's a real shame, Kyle, to see on the opening lap.
Yeah, that was a big one here. Let's have another look as the cars spun ahead of them here. They just kind of get together. The 4 bounces off, and it looks like, was that the 69 car or Brody Goebel? Yes, it was. He was already turned sideways ahead, so just a multi-car incident, but it started in multiple places. All that to be said, lap 1 complete, and it's La Charité up front, and we're seeing Fazui in the 2nd place. But these 2 are actually looking pretty standard nose to tail right now. Not a lot of battling happening up front just yet.
Well, not yet, and that's the key word because they're going to try and break away from those other 2. They want about 1.5 seconds to make that a reality a little bit further back in the pack. Here's Matt Adams, who is always hyper-aggressive in terms of what he wants, trying to find a pass on Giuliano Romagnolo. Alex Ellis just in front of them. Alex Ellis effectively the baroudeur in this group as they charge on forward. Who's going to be the sprinter who finds the move around the outside? That's going to be the question. There was a lot of lift and coast there to try and go through, but Matt Adams will take an advantage of that. Will pivot to the inside, but it's going to have to go around the outside. The second part of Lake Coombe into Malmedy corner is going to get that sorted, but here comes the up and the under from Romagnolo, trying to get this back as we get some Noah's Ark sim racing, too wide, too deep, into this beautiful Bruxelles corner.
A little bit of leaning on each other here, trading some paint. The 55 and 17 have done that a couple of times in the opening laps. This time the 55 slots in line, but another crossover, just can't carry the momentum out of it to battle Matt Adams back. So the 17 clings to 8th for now as Josh Manalo's in the mix. Vincent Trepanier in the 87 back here as well. He started in 9th. He's dropped 2 spots here with the chaos around him, and Therio in the 89 as well. Look at him looking to driver's left. Or actually, that rather is Trepanier looking at Josh Manalo.
Yeah, and that is for the pole position in race 2, so keep an eye on it. It's quite important. A very aggressive line from Josh Manalo at that point. He's really trying to open up the exits of these corners, try and get as much of a drive off of them as possible. Might leave him slightly susceptible to overtake if someone lunges to the inside, but I like that because he's trying to drive with a sense of, I can catch Romagnolo. He's driving in front of him, not behind him.
Here's a look at Andrew Caron in the number 06, started 6th, running as low as 6th and as high as 6th. They've gone effectively nowhere here, but chasing Guillaume Levesque, and if he stays right here, this is that group that's been battling for race wins week in and week out. Maybe not race 1, might require a bit too much pace to get up there, but race 2 with that inversion will put him ahead of these drivers he's behind right now, and he can play defense very well. We've seen that historically in past seasons as well as this season.
We certainly have. 19 flat then from the leaders, and I'm just looking at the times, 19.2s from the drivers 4th, 5th and 6th. So it looks like Yon Gagnon, Renault and Co. aren't able to hold the similar amount of pace as Bouchard, Fizui and Le Charité, and that's going to be trouble for Le Charité. Dealing with one machine there of Rachin Fizui is one trouble, but having his teammate behind him in Bouchard, that's going to be worse. Now here comes the look. Rachin Fizui will look towards the inside. 9 minutes, 43 seconds on the clock. Is this going to be the most bread and butter overtake you'll see? Le Charité will fight it here on the outside, trying to deal with this as the 2 title contenders have themselves their first little exchange as they go through. Door shuts on Rachin.
That was very, very close indeed, and Fizui showing a little bit of restraint there. He probably could have forced the issue, but that more than likely would have drawn some contact, and the worst thing that could happen in this stage of the championship is getting yourself a penalty, imposing something that it doesn't happen on the racetrack. You want to be in full control of your championship. Don't leave it up to the stewards. Race clean and tidy, and Fizui backed out that time. It did bring in the 73, though, a little bit closer to this mix, but with that teammate in behind, that's a little bit of safety that he's got before we get back to Yongano Renault.
Yeah, top 3 in this race are top 3 in the championship, and get this, top 3 have not had a points deduction all season long, as Guillaume Levesque now has to start playing slightly defensively. Andrew Caron trying to find a way to make that pass, and Levesque there to face a concentration, driving through, slightly leaving himself about a half a car width there away from the apex. He gathers it back up nicely through Stavelot corner, and then the drive starts to go through. This is where he gets the advantage of Yon Gagnon Renault in front. And these Porsche 992s, the one thing that I think makes this car very difficult in terms of a race like this, it is very difficult once you get in a pack to get there. And a little extension by Andrew Caron gives him the opportunity then out of that very important Blanchimont corner to get alongside, but crucially not alongside enough that gives him the chance to make that move. It's encouraging signs from Andrew at this point.
Battling for a top 5 position. It is another zip code back to find Alex Ellis, Matt Adams, Romagnolo, Manalo, and more as we approach the halfway point of this race. It's really 2 races in one, at least inside the top 15 or so, because it's 3.6 back from Caron back to Ellis. And Ellis has his hands full dealing with Adams, and because Ellis can't draft off of anybody, he's really the lead horse in this race, and that means that Adams and Romagnolo should be able to draft back up to him and make his life really miserable here in the next couple of laps.
Yeah, it's about 2 car lengths then as they past the DRS marker board. They don't have any drag reduction there, as just in front. There goes Andrew Caron then to make the move. So Caron gets one, but here comes Matt Adams to make one. Then Alex Ellis stuck on the outside. Not much he can do there. He was pulling everybody up the hill. Now he's just got to be really aggressive through these corners, trying to open them up. But you have to leave the door open because, hello, Giuliano Romagnolo straight onto the inside, trying to find a way by. It's not going to get there. Look at that, it's 3 wide in the back almost.
Yeah, they are going after it here. That's Bergeron in the number 12, Etienne Leger in the number 2, and then it's the 89 of Simon Theriault that are also going at it. They were almost 3 abreast leaving Lecombe. Let's go back and have a look at that here. Just a moment ago, there was some contact there, Jake.
Yeah, just a little bit. So you can see both cars then go a little bit deep, which effectively bunches up the field. I don't blame Simon Theriault for getting aggressive there through that section. Little bit of a hip check there to push through, but that is as much as I would say racing incident as possible because they are racing out there in the middle of this pack. They know how important every position is.
Yeah, really the contact at this level. You really don't want to see a lot of front to rear contact, but a little bit of side to side is almost inevitable with how close you're racing. And door-to-door contact lightly and everyone moves on. I think it's fair play here. Fuzui, though, out in front of the 21. Can the 21 get this lead back? He's in the slipstream here through Blanchimont, has to lift. It's not a full throttle corner, even with the downforce generated by the rear wing of this 992 generation Porsche Cup car. 5 minutes and 50 seconds to go, and it is all on here at the front of the field.
It is. It's a case of tick-tock. Just wait for the right time. And I think Le Charité is going to have to be very patient because he's the championship leader. He might not be able to go for the 50-50 move. He'll have to go for something above 50% if he wants to make it happen. Good news is he's got the best time to do it. It's a six-pack challenge up at the front of this field. But what they will know and they will understand is that they are waiting for time to tick down. You're waiting for the move to be decisive, and that's where Le Charité is going to have to strike. He's trying to keep Bouchard out of range, 0.7 of a second that margin. Not enough just yet, but these two at the front, they've been driving well enough so that those behind haven't been a factor, but this is where Le Charité, does he now decide to go through or not? He's going to go for the old school Talladega bump draft.
Gives him a shot. I told you that we'd see some of that NASCAR-style racing here in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. Not too far from that battling. Here's Ellis on the outside of Matt Adams. Adams trying to go around the number 5 and clinging to it right now. Romagnolo sizing both of these drivers up. A little bit of front-to-rear contact there as they leave Lecombe.
Alex Ellis there was starting to get cute, was trying to get up and under, but planting the car perfectly there was Matt Adams on the middle of the apex. No chance then to make that happen, and it does bunch up the group once again. Romagnolo, Manolo, Trepanier, Hoverson, Bergeron and Theriault get onto the back of this group as well. I tell you what, surprisingly for poor races so far is in that third group, Chris McGrath started 7th, back to 15th. Not really the race he wanted there from inside the top 10. Someone who I think had a really good qualifying but couldn't translate it over the early phases of this first race.
Yeah, we've seen that happen a couple of times. Single lap pace at a track like this only means so much. You have to have the racecraft and the aggression, especially on the opening laps. Think back to the real world. Think back to Circuit of the Americas with the NASCAR race with drivers like Jordan Taylor bringing their skills to a different kind of battle. You have to have aggression, but you can't be reckless. And those two things are sometimes mutually exclusive. And McGraw, very careful. The car looks clean, but he has fallen back a handful of positions.
He has, and now will have his hands full in that battle because that's Etienne Leger who is trying to get through and gain that extra position up there, making that run through the left at Blanchimont, and now looking to try and strive through. But they do get a little bit of wash, that bit of aero wake, that dirty air and turbulence that goes through on the rear wing, and that's what's going to cost you maybe 1/10 of a second through that section and makes an overtake into that final chicane all the more difficult with 2 laps to go.
3 minutes remaining on the clock here. The Tag Heuer timing in race 1 of 2. This is our 15-minute race. We'll have our 30-minute race up next. Out front, it's been Racim Fuzui and Antoine Le Charité that have been dominant in this race, but Fuzui has gained some ground, 0.4 of a second, but how much will that 21 eat up on this Kemmel Straight? This is all calculations that Fuzui is doing right now. How far ahead do I need to be to maintain this spot as we got some side-by-side with Gunnar Renault and Caron for 4th?
Andrew Caron is not going to sit about and wait. That is as clean as a move can be. Yonganon Renault just fell outside of 1 second in comparison to Phil Bouchard, and that's what gave the advantage on the straight there. Caron wasn't going to wait. Still, though, you've got Matt Adams, and he holds on to position for the moment, but look at the switchback then from Alex Ellis. All of these drivers fighting in and around, and watch out for Vincent Trepanier moving around the outside trying to get a move done. He's going to want to try and get inside that top 10 because he's the one on the outside looking in. As he pivots then to the inside, he gets the move done on Josh Manilow, and he gets 10th.
This is absolutely phenomenal racing back here as the 55 pops out of line again, looking at a pass from Matt Adams. This is absolutely phenomenal racing here as we head through Pujon. Absolute high-octane racing here. And everyone so far, wow, has been behaving. Big dive from the 55.
The one thing you don't want to do is cross the beams, and Romagnolo, with the most aggressive cross I've seen in a while, is going to get pushed out. 2 tires in the gravel, just about saves it. They hold on for the moment.
That was absolutely wild. Left the corner, 2 tires in the gravel. Have a look right here. Almost chucked that thing into the barriers there, Jake. That could have been game over.
It would have been, and the thing is, with so little time left in this race, it would have been game over for not just race 1, but for race 2 as well, because all of the track position would have been gone out there. Continues on at the front of the field, but it continues on here for 10th in this final position. This is for pole. Trepanier, though, is going to want some points against Romagnolo and Matt Adams and Alex Ellis, who are all there. This is a powder keg ready to explode, and it's got itself a boatload of drivers. This is effectively 7th to 14th. Looking for a place. There are going to be some unhappy people outside that top 10 as Barney there on the right-hand side waves the white flag.
Final lap here at Spa. This is a train where every coach wants to be the lead one. Now up through Eau Rouge and Radillon. Here comes La Charité in the 21. Fazui on driver's right. He goes defensive, side by side for the lead on the Kemmel Straight.
He's going to need to side draft here, otherwise he's going to be in a bit of trouble. 3/4 of the way through now is Antoine Le Charité, but Rashim Fazui now is going to have to be brave on the brakes. Door shut! Not much he can do about that. He'll have chances later on in the lap, but Le Charité, he was waiting and waiting and waiting for that last lap, and he has made that as textbook as possible. Here comes Matt Adams against Alex Ellis. Can he shut the door? Oh, you bet he can. Beautiful stuff. Manilow's off there in the back.
Oh, he's got the wall big time too in the 86. He's going to drop down the order. Radisavets in the 34 has also dropped down the order. So some trouble here in Lecombe for the final time. We saw Fazui frustrated when he gave that position away. It's not going to be a win unless he can muscle it back. 4/10 is the difference here.
Around. Alex Ellis is a big incident as he goes around, and look at it, he's going to catch a lot more as well. Alex Bergeron ends up in trouble. Etienne Leger almost gets collected by Gregory Hoverson. It's a massive accident that shifts the top 10.
Real quick, there's contact there from the 87 is what tripped that whole thing off. Trepanier, and here's a look.
Well, you can see he's going to try and be aggressive, cut back at the exit, just not enough room there. That's just well driven by Alex Ellis, and effectively he ends up a victim.
That was a frustrating situation for the 5, certainly. Still getting scrappy back here, but up front, the 21 leads the way through Blanchimont for the final time, 7/10 of a second. What a pass. Did it cleanly, and now has just a couple corners remaining.
It's as simple as he just drove away fantastically there, Kyle. He's done everything that he's wanted to do there, Antoine Le Charité, and as he rounds the final corner, that is the most deserving win I've seen from him this season. Antoine
Le Charité in the number 21 wins race 1 of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada, round number 5 here from Spa. Behind them, Fazui, Bouchard, Caron, Levesque, and Yonganon Renault in that top 6 group, and there are still some battles here onto the front straight, side by side. And the 66, I think, lost that battle by 0.04 of a second.
Sorry, my correction, that was for 12. There was Hoverson and Christopher Cook coming over to the line. That was a great little battle going through. Issues there with Christopher Cook there, just blinking out a little bit before he headed over towards the line. But that there for Gregory Hoverson, he had to work hard for that because that's about as close as you can get over the line.
That is unbelievable stuff. 0.04 of a second. And while we've got a moment, let's walk you through the session results before everything turns on over to race number 2. Antoine Lacharité in the 21 for Porsche Center Lausanne. Then the Team Rive Sud drivers, 2nd and 3rd. I know Racine will be disappointed in that, but good points certainly in race number 1.
Yeah, no, this is good points there for Fazui and Bouchard, and they have the advantage coming into that next race where they have Kyle track position, and we've seen how crucial it is and how aggressive you need to be off of the starts of these races to really make that happen. But the fact that they have the track position now, as they will start 8th and 9th compared to La Charité in 10th, they can effectively say, well, if you want one to go down the road, the other one can go and play gunner and hold him up. It's going to be that sort of race that we're going to get in the second race, the 30 minutes that they have, but it's a little bit longer, and I think it's going to be a little more punchier with the fact that we have seen the ability to make overtakes, especially at the front of the field. You got drivers up there like Simon Theriault, Vincent Chapanier, those two at the top. We saw how aggressive that pack was up there at the the second pack was during the course of the race. We've now got that for the race lead.
Well, let's talk to our front 2 drivers here in race number 1 of this event. Racim Fazui comes home in 2nd place. Racim, I know that was not exactly the way you wanted to end that race, but it was a good scrap between you and Antoine. Take us through that last lap battle. Was there anything else you could have done different, or is that camel straight just too long for too long?
There was no battle. I clipped the wall. I had toe damage. My wheel 30 degrees to the left. That's all that happened. Like, I can't do much with the car that's broken, but that's my fault. I did 2 or 3 laps with a gap on him, and I knew I had a better last chicane and T1 than him. If I'm at 0.5 seconds, because we did it in practice, if I'm at 0.5 seconds at the line, I get a better T1. He's at 0.6, and then he can't send me on Lecombe, and it happened 3 times in a row, right? So I'm thinking, like, I'll just bring it home. But sometimes you bring it too much home and you slow down too much and you turn in too early and then you clip the wall and get damaged. So my fault.
Well, certainly a frustrating way to end that race, but you get another chance here where we reset some more points on the table for race number 2. I would ask you what's different. I think you already know that answer, but what did you learn in this first race in terms of the racecraft and how this track races, where you can make passes, and how difficult do you think it will be to make forward progress in race 2?
Amongst ourselves, it was Lecombe. With the other people on track, I don't know. I've seen so much stuff this year that surprised me. There's going to be 3 wides. I hope not, but there's going to be 3 wides. There's going to be stuff happening. Hey, I'll try to just keep it clean like I've tried to all season. If I can bring home the win in this one, that would be cool for points. But I'll just go and grab points. But yeah, the main story of this night for me is the wall, and I'm pissed. So yeah.
Best of luck in race number 2, Racine. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
And Jake Sperry, certainly some frustration there, but I think he's learned some things. Is don't hit that wall in race number 2. That's a good way to make sure that you have a little bit of a better result.
Apologies for any language that you've heard there, ladies and gentlemen, but yeah, absolutely. You can sense how Racim Fazui, he's the sort of character who wears his heart on his sleeve, and there's a reason why he's done that, because that is the final lap going into the Lassource hairpin. He is only just, and when I mean just, he's maybe missed it by about an eighth of a car width, the apex on the inside. He's overcut the corner and tagged the inside wall. That has cost him a lot. It would have done a lot of damage to his suspension and the rods that he's got all in the front of that Porsche. And that's why he was down on the straight. He couldn't do anything to really fight back in terms of that battle. But it's not the end of the world. This is where the least amount of points are scored race 1. Heading over to race 2, I think he's in a much better position. I think that he's got himself the ability to redeem himself over the course of that race. And it's clear that he's got the pace. So all he's got to do is just, return the investment of just how quick he is.
Well, another driver that had the pace was Antoine Lacharité. Let's talk to him now. Antoine, what a battle there at the end. Racim was disappointed. He said he got the wall and damaged his car, and at that point there was not much he could do. Take us through the tail end of the race from your perspective, and again, you're again in the position where you have to make up a whole bunch of spots in this second race. Your thoughts and how is it going to happen here at Spa? It's a tricky place to get passes done unless you're on that Kemmel straight.
Yeah, for sure. The main race is going to be a lot different. In the sprint, we go all in. The tires are super hot at the end. I think probably Aston too had probably started pretty hot too. A very sweaty race. But yeah, the main race is going to be a lot slower, gonna take our time and preserve the tire.
And also the chance for incidents here in this first lap of the race is pretty high here. Tell me about the start of this race, heading down into La Source and then through Eau Rouge and Radion. How is it best to keep yourself out of trouble there? Is it just kind of take it easy, or do you try to take a wide line through La Source? Take me through that first lap, because it's a pretty critical lap to make sure you come out the other side and get decent points.
Yeah, I think it's the main point to do a secure first lap is going to be try to put a good gap behind, a good gap in front. Just try to leave space if there's a checkup or something, that we all have the time to react. And yeah, it's pretty much it. After that, you just you cross fingers and hope that it goes well.
Thanks, Antoine. Good luck to you in race 2. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Jake, that was our race winner of race number 1. We've seen this season consistently the challenges of going from 10th to 1st with how tight the field is. Your thoughts? Do you have a favorite for race number 2?
I don't. And I think it's refreshing when you don't have a favorite for a race that could be as open-ended and as crazy over the course of half an hour. But the key to winning this race over the course of a half an hour's run is that you need a gap early. And with a field that is bunched up on accordion through the top 10, I could very easily see one driver getting 2, 3, 4 seconds, the ability to run away down the road. That's going to be the difference maker between winning this race or not winning this race.
Thanks for joining us for the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada, round number 5 from Spa Francorchamps here in Davelo, Belgium. As we head down to the racetrack here in just a moment, this is our longer race, 30 minutes on the clock. And this one will be about 13 laps start to finish. And we'll head down there, and everyone's got the butterflies once again. But we also saw a lot of good mid-pack battles as well, Jake. So I think we're going to see a lot of drama here, really from 12th back to 20th. That was really where all the hot stuff was going on in the first race.
I think it was, and I think a number of drivers made some great progress up through the field. 12 places gained for Christopher Cook. You had the likes, of course, of Alex Bergeron, who was able to gain a number of places on top of that. And you could argue Logan Paja as well was able to gain 8 places. So those drivers are ones to look out for. They gained quite a bit over the opening race. And then you got Matt Adams, who went from 14th to 7th. He starts from 4th. He could be someone who could certainly put everybody else on notice from the second row of the grid. But the one thing I will say is that I think these drivers, the way they're driving, they're glad that they've got this beautiful 7-kilometer track to work with, and not the old circuit, which was 14, 15 kilometers, worked its way all throughout the various towns, from the town of Spa to the town of Francorchamps through with the Master King. You know, they're probably grateful that they've got this brilliant circuit to race on, this tailor-made track for these Porsches.
You know, it's something interesting. We always talk about the different circuits and where they come from and where they started, and this is one of those classic racetracks that started racing on streets and then was changed over the years. Still retains a lot of the character of the original street circuit in some ways, much like Watkins Glen, New York, which started racing on the streets, and many other tracks around the world. It's just a fascinating racetrack, and it's one of those places, if you talk about the greatest racetracks on Earth, this has to be in that conversation. You think of Mount Panorama, you think of tracks like Imola or Monza. This is just one of those tracks that has to make that conversation because of its history and how formidable it is as a racing circuit, not just because of the high speeds, but because of the scale of this place, 7 kilometers in the Belgian countryside.
Imola will always have a soft space in my heart, that much I will admit, but this is the track that I think has been the most significant to racing outside of the 2 big tracks, I think, in the world, be that the 24-hour Le Mans circuit and as well the Nürburgring. I think this circuit is third because this track has been pretty pivotal in terms of what the world has needed out of safety regulations. Of course, in the late 60s, early 70s, there was the boycott. We're not going to run this race. This track, although it's brand new built, is not safe enough to be run. And there's still always that debate that goes through in terms of what makes this track safe and what makes this track not safe. This is a slightly older scan of this Circuit de Spa Francorchamps. It doesn't have the opened out reach and expanse through Eau Rouge and Radion, but it just shows you a reminder. This is the circuit that I think out of all the tracks on the Formula One calendar, Kyle, except Monaco, has the least changes to it to fall to FIA Grade 1 specification. It's longer than FIA grade specification, and its front straight is shorter than FIA grade specification.
I think there's a lot of drivers in the sim, real-world drivers, that will tell you that they really like the old school circuits, those that weren't necessarily made in a CAD program, those that were carved into the mountainsides of rural areas and really made up what is now all the classic circuits, whether it's the US, Canada, or beyond. You have to circle, certainly, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park up in Bowmanville, Ontario, as perhaps another one of those tracks that belongs in this conversation. It's a fascinating place, and you don't get racetracks like this anymore, Jake. And I love racing on it, whether it's in the sim or watching it in the real world. Certainly, we've got other tracks of a similar style coming up. Road America next round. I cannot wait. One of my favorite racetracks over here in the United States. About 2.5 hours north of me, I'm here in Chicago, but Road America and Elkhart Lake, another great racetrack that's next up on our calendar.
Oh, it is, and I'm sure that these drivers want to get as many points as they can going into America's Green Hell, a circuit which I think has certainly proven itself over the years to be one of the great American racetracks that you have out there. But these drivers know that they can't start thinking about Road America now. They've got to focus on this race here at the Circuit de Spa Francorchamps. They know how crucial this circuit is. They know how deadly this circuit is in terms of making or breaking a season. And if you see Monterio out there at the front of the field, Vincent Trepanier alongside the company, this is a very, very aggressive group at the front of the pack. You want space early, but I think they're going to try and fight for it. The opening 5 minutes are going to set the tone for the entirety of this race.
And we've seen Trepanier in this position before. Think back to the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit a couple of rounds ago. That was round 2, and Vincent was right up in the mix, tangoing there, and there was a little bit of contact with the number 17 of Matt Adams, who is going to start right behind him. So you have to wonder, again, I don't think that the series is going to tolerate any kind of payback or anything. I'm sure it's gone over everyone's heads at this point, but maybe in the back of his mind, not going to cut Matt Adams any breaks after what happened at the Nürburgring. Matt Adams was disappointed in himself after that, told us in the interview after finishing up on the podium that he did not want to race like that, and I'm sure that will count for something in Vincent's mind. But Simon Theriault in that 89, we'll see what he can do starting from this pole position.
Never count out Matt Adams. If you saw how defensive he was at Sebring, he can battle it out with the rest of them. I saw him race at Watkins Glen in the Skip Barber Formula iRacing series. He won a race in the craziest circumstances, the most difficult race. This is the style of racing that suits him. We'll see that as the pace car will dive off into the pits.
Last race of round number 5. This is a 30-minute timed race. 40 drivers on the grid for this final event of the evening. Thanks for joining us here. Time to go racing from Spa one more time. Green flag flies, and we're racing at Spa. Look at the run from the 104 car. Logan Passa in the background. The 87 gets flanked by the 55 into turn 1, and La Source is a busy place here.
Yeah, he's going to have to be careful. He maybe hasn't jumped the start or anything like that. The stewards will have a good look to see what has happened, but as they charge through, Guillaume Levesque's had a pretty good start, side by side for second, then as Trepanier then will have to fall back into line as Giuliano Romagnolo, who's there in third as they crest the rise then for the first time in this half an hour's expanse as they go through, everybody funneling on through, but this is where it's going to be key. Romagnolo now going to make the move, big accident there, one of the Markham cars caught up in it, that's about 6-7, all done for, a junkyard, a huge one, and look at that bash.
There is a huge crash at the back of the field. We'll let this settle out. We'll go look at it once more, but that was absolutely enormous and included Alex Allison. Oh, there goes the 87.
Just like that, Vincent Trepanier is demoted down the field, turned around at Malmedy Corner, and everybody else around, he's going to have to wait very, very long there to try and get himself back through. But now you've got to sort of count your chickens. Where is everybody at this point? Lots of too wide as they go down through the Speaker's Corner and head themselves over to this right section. But it is Simon Theriault, Giuliano Romagnolo, and Yon Gagnon Renault up to third. Levesque and Matt Adams, they're chasing back for position. That's a wide line by Andrew Caron as he races around with Rashim Fazui.
Etienne Leger got shuffled out of line there as well. Frantic start, Andrew Caron in 7th place. Rashim Fazui, Antoine Lacharité in this battle as well, trying not to get themselves caught up in any of the carnage that we've seen so far. Let's go back and have a look at what happened on the back straightaway heading up the Kemmel Straight. Let's see if we can catch what happened and where it started here. There was already cars off.
Look, there's smoke in front of them, and it's already happening, so it's right on the exit. I think we're going to have to take a second look just a little bit further forward. So look at this, too wide off the exit, and oh, it looks like there, the pink machine that goes flipping about 6-7 times gets the first part of it, and that's what happens because you have to deal with that negative G effect as you go up the top of the hill. The car gets light at the top of Radeon, and that's where the rear can get very, very loose, and that's probably what's happened. Spun the car over to the inside. Look, you can see compression damping. The fronts were lifting through that section. No way to control the car, and at that point where it funnels through into that section of track, Kyle, you're effectively praying that no one else is going to tag you.
Yeah, and then here's the incident with Trepanier in the number 87. Was it off the bumper of the 17, or did he just, oh, it was actually off the rear. No, he just got loose all on his own. Just got the rear end out of shape, and the 17 helped him around, but I think Vincent was already going for a loop regardless.
Cold tyres, early stages, that's what you get to see. It's on for the race lead, though, because here comes Giuliano Romagnolo. He's done well to catch up to Simon Theriault. He'll have to go the long way around to make this move happen. Does he pinch well on the inside? Oh, you bet he does. And that is Romagnolo up into the race lead. Easy as you like. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Guillaume Levesque going to be going away. Bit of a gap to Matt Adams, once again proving he's a thorn in the side. He's got Bouchard and Fizui all sorted out at this point in time. Charity's got a bit of work to do. He's stuck behind Andrew Caron.
Yeah, still back in position number 9. Romagnolo's a name that you'll remember from the first season of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. Won a whole bunch of races. The amount of competition has come up so much that Romagnolo, this has been a rare moment for him to be out front leading, but he is going to take every opportunity he can to run away with this as quickly as he can, because there is a proven recent race winner riding in third place right now, and that's Yangonneau Renault, and he is hungry for one, certainly, after the last couple of rounds.
Yeah, you can certainly sense it. You can look how much lead he puts in. You know how when you're about 5 or 6 years old, you're convinced, Kyle, that you turn into the corner and it makes you turn more. That is Jon at the moment. I have never seen such an aggressive lean out of a sim racer before, and it just goes to show you how invested he is in terms of getting that car turned the way he wants it.
We've noted him doing this in the past, and it's really fun to watch because it doesn't help you at all, but there's a mental piece to this as well. It makes you feel like you're doing something different. And for Yangonneau Renault, it's whatever he's doing, it's working, because he's up to third and moving quickly towards P2 and P1. Change for position here between the teammates. Rassim Fizui passed teammate Phil Bouchard for the Porsche Center Rive Sud team. So they will trade spots again. And Etienne Leger's gone around, and Radisavets as well.
Yeah, so Radisavets then at the final corner, he might have got a bit of help. He's got to be careful he doesn't go back too far. He might get disqualified for going the wrong way. Here's the contact then. Oh, it's Leger who just runs out of road. Couldn't quite get the car turned in enough because it's off camber through that final chicane, that final part of it. So that's where it goes wrong, and that's why he's way down the order. Very fortunate to still be in this race, Radisavets.
And for second place, here comes Yangonneau Renault in the 18. To driver's left down the Kemmel Straight, and he's got Guillaume Levesque coming with him.
Yeah, how good on the brakes is Guillaume? And the answer is very, but can he stay aggressive through the second part? He can. I think that's very trepidatious by Simon Theriault, and they can see straight around the outside. Thank you very much. I've not seen a move like that in a while, and both of them were very cautious. Look how much time it's cost them trying to make that move. They've already fallen back, and there goes Enzo Johansson into the barriers there at Lake Coon.
And more up the road. Hovesen is off as well in the gravel. This has been a very messy one here. Let's see if there's contact from the 66 of Cook. A little bit on the entry to the corner. They just get together and off into the gravel they went.
Too aggressive there from Hovesen. There, Cooks dictates where you go on the line. Now this is where it gets really clumsy. 3 wide, serving to slow down. Where do you go? And it's a part of the track where you're effectively going off the old main road between Spa and Francorchamps, and then turning off the circuit into the dedicated track's middle sector, and that's why it tightens up through there. That's why it's very difficult to serve a slowdown penalty through there.
Well, cue the Jaws music, because the 18 is on a mission. We've still got 23 minutes remaining. That is a lot of time for Yangonneau Renault. By the way, here's the pass for 5th place. Matt Adams giving one up to Rassim Fizui here, headed down through Blanchimont into the, oh, that's going to be tight. Has to give it up there. Crosses him over, though, at the exit.
Oh, he holds him up beautifully through there, and that brings Bouchard into play, who will now look to go around the outside of Fazui for position here. They're going to start battling, and they can't afford to battle as teammates here. This is what's going to cost them, and why Matt Adams is just so aggressive. It's going to put these two drivers into a very difficult position. They're fighting for a championship. Matt Adams isn't, and now all of a sudden Caron is there, La Charité is there, Pasha is there as well. They're all going to start working hard, and look at a drive off the exit, the big wide line being taken by Bouchard to allow Fazui back through. They're going to have to work hard because they've already dropped about a second to Matt Adams, and it's all time that gets lost in the shuffle.
Nose to tail right now, and as you come off over Radion, everyone goes from being very orderly to very chaotic as everyone starts to split the difference left and right to try to find any advantage they can, and for the lead, here comes the 18 of Jean-Guénon Renault to the outside in Les Combes. Can he cling to it here as the 55 tries to hang on? There's one car in the dirt over there. Didn't see who it was.
It was Adrian Versen, the lap traffic there, so they managed to survive. Romagnolo holds on to station, big defensive line in, which is going to allow Guillaume Levesque then the chance to get into this battle. Jon is on a charge, and these top four are looking at each other like, do you want a scrap? I'll have a scrap. Do you want a scrap? Yeah, I'll have a scrap. They'll have a scrap here, Kyle.
They are certainly doing that, and what I thought was going to be a two-man race is certainly turning into four, and don't count out Matt Adams because he is lingering in the distance here. And as the shadows grow longer, that 17 is looking more and more like a threat. Last time by was quicker than at least three of the drivers ahead of him. So he could be coming into this mix as well, especially if these front two continue to run side by side. If Romagnolo fights this off for too much longer, that 17 will be a part of this conversation.
Big difference maker. Evening conditions, in sim time, it's 10 to 8. In the evening, track temperature down to 22 centigrade. It is not much at all in terms of temperature that they've got to deal with, and this track is at its quickest. It will also keep the tyres cooler for longer so they can be more aggressive on their tyres, and that's where Jean-Guénon Renault is trying to win this race. Be aggressive early, get to the front of the field, and then when the tyres decide they don't want to start working, they start screaming mercy. That's when he's going to start defending. That's when it's going to be crucial. So he's got to get the move done quickly, but Guillaume Levesque's proving, I want to be just as aggressive, just as quick, just want to get into this as they now start their fifth lap of this feature race.
The challenge for Jean-Guénon Renault is that he can't just focus out the windshield because he has Guillaume Levesque in behind him, who is not a teammate, not necessarily willing to play ball here. There is the potential that Guillaume will work with the 18 here, but I wouldn't make that in any sort of expectation. So Guillaume could certainly be the mosquito in the ear for the 18 while he tries to battle Romagnolo. He'll be looking out the mirror to try to keep the 888. Wow, big jump over the curbs, leaving Radion.
Yeah, it proves they're trying to get everything out this circuit. They'll use all their road tax. Here comes Jon again. Over to the outside. He gets himself alongside, gets himself half a car length in front. They hit the braking markers now, and he's going to get full coverage as he knows. He has to leave the door open here. Romagnolo taking advantage of that position, driving around the outside of the second part, and then finding the door. Slam shut there for Jon, and that is a freebie. Cookies, thank you very much. Guillaume Levesque will try and get through, but Jon trying to work the outside line, work the oracle to get the pass sorted. He's still there, a little bit of contact there. Guillaume Levesque not undeterred by that. He'll lose out to the place on the outside, and suddenly the group has gone from a race for the lead, for a race for second, all the way back to, I would argue, right now, Justin Ream in 12th place.
Romagnolo loves this in the mirror right now as these drivers are scrapping for position. They sort it back out to how they were running before, but now with a 1 second advantage, almost clear of the slipstream. That's the only way you can run away here at Spa, is if you have the best pace and you're out of the slipstream. And Romagnolo is so close to doing that right now, and he could almost coast to victory if he could keep the lap times down very well in addition to that. But the battle continues behind him. Simon Theriot in the 89, Phil Bouchard, Andrew Caron, and Antoine La Charité, who continues to battle in 9th position. He has not made much progress.
Oh, trying to overtake Simon Theriot right now is like trying to extricate yourself from a rose bush. It's very difficult, it's thorny, it's prickly, and you're going to find it's going to take a while to make that happen, and that's what's costing these drivers right now, who maybe have the turn of pace to make it happen, as there's a little look coming through now from Pasha, who's now going to make the pass attempt on La Charité. This one, an important one 4th position for Antoine, who's going to give him a little bit of argy-bargy on the outside, but Page's not going to be deterred by this. Look at Logan go. He's going to now start thinking about the inside here at the last horse hairpin, think, you know what, I've got a chance. Can I get this sorted on the brakes? They almost completely tangle, and just like that, there's the tangle. Paja tried to go through Le Charité, was only going to give him a line, and just like that, they're both going to drop a place here. Justin Reen, 2 for the price of 1 for doing nothing at all.
That was really close to being a disaster. Let's have another look at that, heading down into La Source. Just kind of clears himself, moves a little bit too far left on corner exit right there, and tangles with the 21. And La Charité was not about to back out and let him get back on course. The 104 had to tuck back in line later, and they're still tangling down into Les Combes.
You can't afford to do this if you're the championship leader. 21's going to go straight across the road. That could be trouble for Cook there in the 66, who's just there into the mix. And suddenly, La Charité's race is turning from bad to worse to downright diabolical. He's getting caught up with drivers that he doesn't usually race against, doesn't quite know what their style and standard is. This is valuable points that he's dropping. Rashim's in P5. You look at Le Charité right now, you could argue he's down there in, what, 13th position? That's the last place he wants to be.
13th place is down 3 from where he started for Racim Fazui, 9th to 5th at the moment. This, I think, would turn the points lead back over if they were to finish like this. So that's how tight things are at the front of the championship right now. And Fazui's looking for more. He's got Matt Adams in the crosshairs now. This is going to get pretty racy for 4th, and not too far beyond that is the battle for the overall race lead here as we approach the halfway point with 16 minutes to go.
Matt's the toughest of these 4 drivers to overtake, mark my words about it. If Rashim can dispatch of Matt within the next lap or so, he's got free rein. He'll challenge Guillaume Levesque, he'll challenge Jean-Gagnon Renault, he'll challenge Giuliano Romagnolo, but you also have to remember that Guillaume Levesque has his teammate in mind when he's trying to hold it off. Good run then, he'll have to go to the outside then, try and get this pass sorted. If he can throw it in deep enough, he might have the inside take advantage. Room has to be left here by Matt Adams, who will get a better drive off the exit, but he slides the rears out of the corner. Thank you very much. Rashim Fazui up to 4th, just like that.
Will Adams have anything to say in defense? He will not. He's going to slot back into 5th place. Behind them, Phil Bouchard and Simon Theriault getting together here just a little bit. The 89 tucks in behind the 73, but he is right behind him. And this is also a visibility problem through Eau Rouge and Radillon, Jake, because down here, this Porsche takes up the whole windshield. You can't really see where you're going.
Train tracks, you just got to hope the car in front of you is going in the right direction. You're going to pretty much have to follow it up that section of road. Now here comes Andrew Caron, who wants to get into the mix, and you're starting to see everywhere you go, and for the race lead, this is where it's going to get interesting. Romagnolo again on the outside, but Jan, oh baby, takes the race lead, and just like that, he's got to run because Guillaume Levesque is now going to try and attack hard defensive line to the inside. Levesque again on the outside with nowhere to go.
Well, he beat the 888 there, but not by much. That was very close to just being a block, which will get you in trouble here in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. But with the 55 shuffled out of the lead, that will give Jean-Gagnon Renault the opportunity to drive away if this 55 is losing time compared to everybody else. This is his dream scenario, is let that 55 race everyone for a second, and I'm going to drive away and pick up some points in a race win here at Spa.
Well, he wants to break away. He's got 14 and a half minutes to do so, but you've got some of the fastest drivers in this Sprint Challenge Canada series waiting in the wings to try and get through. So don't count your chickens just yet. It's still a little early to think about it. Alex Bergeron having a good race. He's up 5, now up 6 in this race with the overtake he's done on this lap on Simon Theriault. He has driven a fantastic race back into this. Remember, he started the first race in 22nd. His net gain over the course of racing so far tonight here, Kyle, is plus 14. That's
exceptional, and we've talked at length about how challenging it is to make passes. The driver that won the first race of the night has actually gone backwards here in race number 2. And it's not because he's driving slower, it's because everyone is basically driving the same speed. And if you get past, it will take you 2, 3, 4 laps to get it back. And that's how challenging it is. So to go up 14 positions is a heck of an accomplishment, and that is certainly something to pat yourself on the back for here. But speaking of patting on the back, La Charité is going to do that to the 104 here shortly. 13 minutes to go. The battle for 11th is on between these two.
and he knows he can't afford to get caught up in silly incidents here and there. He's already been caught up once so far. They're jumping on to the next group, and look at that. Paja outbreaks himself, trying to be the hero, and La Charité knows that's a crucial overtake to get it sorted. When you're in the second half of the seasons, points become more valuable, not in the sense of you score more points, but in individual point margins. It's a game theory margin that you look at, Kyle. Every point holds more weight, and now here comes the chance then to get back at Bergeron. Simon Theriault moving to the outside naturally to try and make this move happen because the inside was defended, and on the brakes he beats him out by about 15 meters, and thank you very much, there's the pass.
And Justin Ream up into the 10th position from 17th on the grid. What a drive he has done as Matt Adams and Rasim Fazui are going back at it here for 4th place.
You know, Matt doesn't know when to quit. He wants to get through. Levesque now up into 2nd position, and he's got it done, but the door is still open. He couldn't shut it entirely. Get a crowbar out, thank you very much. And suddenly, here comes your teammate. Phil Bouchard is certainly going to say, I want to get in on this. You can see the face of concentration there from Phil as he gets to the inside. You can't put the power down the outside there if you're Matt Adams. He has to cede the place. Brilliantly done by Phil.
You can almost see the weight lift off his shoulders there. He physically relaxed when he got that pass done after he looked in the mirror, but it's not over yet. P5 right now, there's still 4 ahead of him he'd like to get. Was on top of the world after Spielberg last week, but has to get back up 4 more positions to repeat what he did last week, this week. But he's got a teammate just ahead of him as well, so far for Porsche Center Reeves Suit, it's been a good night. 2nd and 3rd in race 1, and right now 4th and 5th in race 2.
There's one problem if you want the victory. It's called Yon Gagnon Renault. Yon's gone. P1. You're not going to really argue about this. Look at that gap. It's 1.7 seconds at this moment in time. Guillaume Levesque, all of a sudden, you start thinking about, well, okay, well, what have I got to do? Drive like the wind, because Jon has found himself with an opportunity because Romagnolo hasn't been good. Now, the key to winning this race right now is whether Rashin can get up to P2 or not, whether he wants to start trading laps and effectively working in tandem with someone like Guillaume Levesque. They're going to have to work together, this group, to catch Jon, because Jon is driving fantastically up there at the front.
Here's an example of that. Jon's last lap, a 2:19.352. For Levesque, a 2:19.853, half a second gain. That is an astronomical amount of time to lose to a race leader. And Jan's got no traffic ahead of him, no one pressuring from behind. So I think that's the only way they're going to run him down is by working together. And looks like there's battle for 2nd place or 3rd place rather, as Romagnolo might give it up to Fazui here into Lecombe.
Oh, Fazui's gone too deep here. He's going to have to try and gather that back. He'll lose the place. And Bouchard jumps up onto the scene, covers off the line in the middle of the road and says, you're not going to get that one easy, sunshine. Maybe a chance here at Bruchel to make the pass, but the teammates are going to work together and say, no, don't have to make that change. We don't have to lose that place just yet. But Fazui will know that's a crucial one. He can't afford to do too many of those. It's costing him time in this race. He doesn't have much of it left. He'll be down to his final 10 minutes.
Whoa,
here.
spin.
Look at that. Bang, into the barriers.
That's Justin Ream in the number 7 in Speaker's Corner for Porsche Center Calgary. He has gone around off of the nose of a competitor. Etienne Leger narrowly misses making significant contact with him. Here's a look. And that was the 104, yep.
Look, they're pushing against each other, turning into the corner, and by the time that they're pushing going in, it looks to me like the contact beforehand really unsettled. There's nothing you can really say on Paja except that final little bit of contact as he turns in, trying to give him not much at all. That is very 50-50 between the two of them, but, you know, they're both trying to race really hard for that place. I think that, you know, the way that Paja's been driving, the fact that he's been in the frying pan, or effectively out of the frying pan and into the fire, so to speak here, Kyle, he's in a position where he's racing a bit too hard. There goes the 53 again. That's Matthew Murphy. Yeah,
I think there's elbows out for sure, and I guess you can't be surprised if both guys have their elbows out and one of them gets bruised. That was bound to happen. Here's a little contact between Matthew Murphy and I think that was the 298 of Romain Faux, and they go around battling for 23rd place. And so that's another Porsche Center Calgary team car. Not a good lap for that Porsche Center in particular.
No, not at all. And they'll want to forget that one and go on forward in terms of the race that they've got. Still on, though, at the front, but crucially, look at how Romagnolo is effectively holding on to that podium place. He knows how crucial this is for him in terms of his development. If everyone starting to find better pace. He wants to hold on to this, but he's got the entire Riv Sud team behind him trying to get through. Rashim will move to the outside. Bouchard will try and follow him through here and push. They go to side by side. It'll be a battle of brakes then, as they now find themselves to Lakum, and it's Romagnolo who wins the brakes initially, but can he shut the door? No. Has to go around the outside. Manages it. He is so good at the outside line. We've seen it so many times, and he'll just shut them down on the exit of Malmedy to say, you know what, you want to drive off that corner? Not gonna happen. Rash him around the outside, and you know what? He almost stuck it.
Almost did, and it's getting pretty physical here. Rassim's very focused, but I think you can see some frustration. This 55 not doing anything wrong, but being exceptionally defensive, and they are losing time and stacking up Caron and Adams behind as well as they battle for position. So we're going to see some positions change here, and I think it's because this 55 is the cork in the bottle, and someone's shaking up the champagne right now.
And while all that's happening, Antoine Lecharité has found his way back to 10th position. He's got Alex Bergeron in 9th in front, and that's going to be big. Still some side-by-sides they go through. Romagnolo's just pretty much clogging up here this brilliant Belgian countryside right now here in the Ardennes. And now here comes the chance then for Matt Adams as he pushes Caron out then to the outside. Dario is going to look to the inside, and this is going to get dicey between them. They leave just enough room. That's racing room for you, those ladies and gentlemen. And here on the 75th anniversary of Porsche as a company making cars, they are driving an absolute showcase for them. Here to Blanchimont, they fall back to single file.
How about this? Not single file, though, for the battle for third. Fizui on the left, and now he's going to get past Romagnolo. Well done there. Finally gets the pass done, and you can see he's got a smile on his face now. Finally completes it. That's a relief.
Well, it's just the confidence he has on the brakes. That's the big difference maker. Rashim has been able to figure out how to brake later than most of his other competitors out there, and that's giving him the confidence to go through. As Lecharité, oh, hello, he's going to go around the outside of not just Alex Bergeron, but Simon Theriault as well, and move up into P8. This has been some cavalier-style battling they go through. Too wide up the hill. Theriault will lose out to Bergeron, but Lecharité, oh, that's glorious.
That was exceptional. I was going to say let's have a look at that, but it was getting very racy for third place again, the 58 and 55. Romagnolo's going to muscle it back.
Oh, he's still got to get it through Malmedy, though. That's the key. He can't shut the door, but he'll have drive off the exit. Rashim Fizui stuck up there, and now it's about Bouchard having to defend against Matt Adams, who takes the power move to the outside, heavily running out of time. They've already ceded 5 seconds to Yonghenon Renault at the front, pushed out, hung out to dry like yesterday's washing. Goes Matt Adams, and he'll have to know that Phil Bouchard is not going to let anything touch Rashim Fizui at this point. It
has to be said that Romagnolo is driving an absolutely exceptional race, making this 55 car so incredibly wide. And as far as I can tell, pretty fair play. It's certainly frustrating. Whoa, there comes the 58, a dive, and he turns the 55 around.
That was not what you wanted to see, and Rashim Fizui for the first time might find himself in a little bit of hot water there. It was best brave, and oh, another one goes around. That might be Lecharité who's found himself in trouble. So just like that, there's the hit, round you go. That is how quickly it falls into all sorts of trouble, and I tell you what, it wasn't Lecharité, it was Christopher Cook who found himself around then on the rejoin potentially there. So Cook finding himself in a world of trouble. So that might put both Romagnolo and Fizui in a bit of hot water. Now Fizui's just got to hold on to third because Matt Adams and now Andrew Caron want to get into the mix, and they've got themselves 3 laps to figure it out. And there you go, it's dominoes. They head to the chicane.
Huge trouble for the teammates, and they're collected in carnage down at the chicane with just 2 laps remaining, the 58 and the 73. And that is bad news for the Riv Sud Porsche Center team. That is going to be a big deal. Let's go back and have a look.
Lecharité is the one who comes out smelling of roses here. It's Matt Adams who's trying to find the move. Moves to the outside, but he's trying to be later on the brakes. But I want to see how much Bouchard moves here. This is going to be the key difference to see who's at fault. So we'll take a little look. This is Caron's view of it here. How much does Bouchard move over to the left-hand side? The answer is he does move a little bit there. So I think Matt Adams will look at it and go, well, Bouchard's moved on my nose. There's not much I can do. We'll see. He moves over to the left-hand side. Yeah, door's shut.
Yeah, that's a tough one for sure, and the stewards will have a word to say about that. But 1-2 punch for the Rive Sud Porsche Center, and they are down the order now. Scored in Bouchard 10th and 12th for Racim Fazui, and La Charité up to 4th position. You want to talk about championship implications? He was back as far as 13th place, and he has muscled his way back to P4 with 2 laps to go. This is going to be a turning of the tides for the championship picture in just the last 2 or 3 laps.
I tell you what, in the last 5 minutes, he has gone from maybe not having a championship lead to maybe having a feature race advantage in the championship. That is how crucial the turn of events has just happened. And for Antoine La Charité, this is why when you get caught up in an incident out there in a race, you never give up in terms of racing, because it may just come back to help you in terms of what you've got. And let's not forget, podium still on the cards. Caron's still got to do the defensive duty out there over the course of this one. This is far from over.
And it could even get worse for Fazui as well. If that contact with the 55 draws a penalty, that could put him further down the order as well, and that will mean a very different championship picture heading in to Road America in a couple of weeks' time. Caron in 3rd, trying to cling to it, though, as the leaders come back around. Guénon Renault is going to see the white flag this time through. He's got 7 kilometers of racing remaining to win this race here at Spa.
Certainly does. 7 kilometers and 4 meters. That's all he's got in terms of making it happen. La Charité, this is a power moment for him as he goes a little bit deep through the opening corner. Might just give Caron enough of a run here off of the exit, but you're going to have to knock on wood that you've got enough top end to get yourself alongside when you get up this hill. You now take the drive through the left of Eau Rouge, the right of Radion, and up the hill. You now look to try and gain that advantage. 3 car lengths down to 2. 2 car lengths then down to 1. 1 car length down to none. Move to the inside to try and get this move sorted and have it on the brakes. Caron was never going to fight him for position, and that is a podium right now for La Charité as Matt Adams desperately tries to defend. Straight on will go Theriault. Oh, Bergeron
in the 12, and he skids back across the surface and dives back to the inside of Adams here. He's going to have a slowdown penalty almost surely, but despite that, he's going to give Matt Adams a little bit of his mind after some contact there. Don't know if we can place a whole lot of blame on it without having another look at it yet, but contact still.
Oh, he's trying so hard to just stay in the mix and serve it as slowly as he possibly can. I think that was part of it there, trying to serve the penalty. He's still going to have to at some point, otherwise he's going to get the black flag, and he's going to lose about 40 seconds by the end of the checkered flag when he has the black flag that he can't serve on the final lap of this race. Oh, there's more dramas. Bergeron's going to go around and somehow saving it. Rob Agnolo with the save of the day.
I think he was trying to tap the brakes and give up some time, and it was just mid-corner. Romagnola had nowhere to go, ran into the back of him. The car jumped airborne, skidded across the runoff into the bouncy off-track area, and somehow kept it under control. That was a phenomenal display of driving there for Romagnola. Back to 7th place after the dramas of the last couple of laps. But out front, Guénon Renault. It has been a little while, and P10 in the points comes into tonight in the picture, and he's going to leave Spa certainly more in the picture than he was. Celebration and elation for the Porsche Center North Toronto driver. You see the relief on his face. Checkered flag. Guénon Renault wins race 2, round 5 at Spa Francorchamps.
Thoroughly deserved drive, and it's exactly what I said before the race. Someone was going to need a little bit of help, and then the pack will break away, and then he's got the chance, and that's what Guénon Renault did as they will race to the line. Alex Bergeron, though, did have the black flag coming over the line, so he will drop about 15-20 places off of it because he was unable to serve the stop and hold penalty for the cut track penalty that he had. So crucially for Bergeron, his championship points are going to plummet thanks to the iRacing system.
Wow. There was a little bit of everything in that race, and certainly some more bent sheet metal and bent carbon fiber, and certainly some drivers that are going to walk away from this one frustrated and upset, but this is the dramas of live esports, and the competition is so high, it's so aggressive out there, but This man, Jean-Guinan Renault, celebrates with a burnout in La Source for Porsche Center North Toronto and brings home that pink Porsche on top of the board. What a drive, what a race. Let's have a look at our race results. It was a wild one out there. Let's have a look at the top, North Toronto, and just like in race number 1, actually, that was that Rive Sud. Lausanne, though. Porsche Center Lausanne, second and third here. Good points night for them with that 88, 888, and the 21 of La Charité. A great rebound after getting kind of buried earlier in that race.
Absolutely, and that is key for Antoine Le Charité. He knows how crucial these points are, and he's managed to pick up a boatload of them when about halfway through the race it looked like he wasn't going to be getting very much at all. You then look at those drivers who are in and around that top 10. Logan Paja somehow managed to get a fifth. He was in everybody's grill over the course of this race. Matt Adams, expect him to maybe get caught out with a couple of things here and there, and I tell you what, Phil Bouchard to get 8th out of all of that, I think is pretty impressive.
Really impressive, all things considered. Gregory Hovesen, a top 10 for Porsche Center Halifax. Simon Theriault for Porsche Center Victoria, another top 10 as well after he started up on that front row. And a look down the rest of the order here. Racim Fazui, certainly a disappointing run in this one, and you'll have to see how points shuffle out with any coming penalties in that battle for position up inside the podium, but it'll all have to get sorted before Road America next round. Etienne Leger, 14th. Stephen Warcup up to 16th place, a good climb. Justin Ream, we saw for Porsche Center Calgary, get tangled. He managed to bounce back for a 17th place. And then 87, Vincent Trepanier, we saw him get tangled as well. Top 20 for him, Jake.
I tell you what, Brody Goebel gained 20 places in that race. He had an incredible run up to 18th, and that does definitely have to be said. For about 21st on back, though, you look at the likes of who's there, and a lot of these drivers started in and around that top 15 or so. Likes of Radosavat is not going to be too happy about it. Romain Faux had a pretty good drive up there, but these drivers here we've seen get in trouble, and look how much that penalty has hurt over the line for Alex Bergeron. He'll be classified down in 30th, having not served the penalty. 1 minute and 3, he'll be put back because he was 33 seconds over the line, couldn't manage to do anything more than that. And then you hit the retirees. Big one there, Alex Ellis. That's going to hurt.
That's going to hurt huge, and that was all back to that crash on the opening lap of race number 2, where we saw cars get out of shape over the top of Radillon, and then sheet metal, and then Armco. It was what ended Alex Ellis's day. 38th place, big hit in the points for Porsche Center Markham. Let's talk to our podium finishers. First up, Antoine Le Charité. Won race 1, comes home third in race number 2. Certainly doesn't tell the whole story, Antoine. That was a wild race. He fell back to about 13th at one point, but rebounded for a podium. You have to be proud and satisfied with that, at least in the points.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great amount of points, but not the way that I want to finish on the podium. And it's very unfortunate for the two Rive Sud guys. I was looking forward to have a nice battle with them, but yeah, didn't turn the way I think it would turn. But we turned the page and focus on the next race.
Yeah, certainly it got pretty physical out there in race number 2. As you look around and you kind of see cars dropping out of the picture, and you focus on the next couple of rounds, the points are going to shift and shuffle, but we talked after race 1 about how important it is to have a clean race. Just how sketchy is it out there when everyone's bouncing off of each other around you, and how hard is it to stay out of trouble?
Yeah, super sketchy, because if you don't have 6/10 gap with the guys behind, you can always get back into you just with the straight line at Spa. So it's always tricky. It's very like a NASCAR race more than the circuit race. But there's track like this, and you have to be ready to not be surprised when the move come. And yeah, I was a bit surprised today. Not gonna lie, but at the end of the day, it's great point for me. So I cannot be very disappointed. Sorry.
Antoine, thanks so much for chatting with us. Congratulations on 2 podium finishes for you and your team, Porsche Center Lausanne. We'll see you next round at Road America, the National Park of Speed. Thanks for chatting.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Porsche Lausanne.
All right, going to move on now to our second place finisher. That is Guillaume Levesque, who brings it home in second place 2.3 seconds behind eventual winner Jean-Guillaume Renault. Guillaume, tonight, not a whole lot you could have done to run down that 18. He just got such an advantage while the battle for second was on. Take us through your fight there with the drivers that were around you, the 55 of Roman Yolo, the 58 of Rasim Fazui. It was getting very wild. What'd you see out your windshield? How crazy was it from inside the AAA?
Honestly, it was pretty clean. Grats to Jan, he got Giga Face at the end. I couldn't do anything. I'm mostly happy about the results because it's my worst track of the calendar, so I'm pretty happy with the points tonight. So just keep the point and go back to practicing, and that was my mindset for this race. And coming home second is a bonus, so yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
You've got your teammates near you most of the night. How important is having teammates around you at these big fast tracks? Because we saw several times when drivers that were out there without a teammate kept getting flanked from all sorts of sides and angles. It seemed like you and your teammates were generally working together pretty well tonight. So take us through the challenges of not having a teammate around you and how hard it is to defend.
Honestly, tonight I didn't have Antoine close to me like much, I think. So it was pretty much on my own and just keep it clean and trying to put those lap in, just like I said, bringing back those points, and that's what happened. And big things happened behind. I think I didn't see it yet, but seriously, we need to debrief on that and look at what happened and be aware of the moves that can be done in the future races.
Guillaume, thanks so much for chatting. Congratulations on a P2 finish tonight. We'll see you next round at Road America.
Thanks to Porsche Lausanne, to the top.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
And last but certainly not least, Jean-Guillaume Renault gets it done, wins in the number 18 for Porsche Center North Toronto. Jan, it was a pretty interesting race at the start. Got pretty physical behind you, but once you were able to clear everybody and start driving away, it was all in the mirror. Take us through your night, race 1 and driving home in race 2 to your win of the season here.
So race 1 was I just want to be safe because I know the reverse grids, that's all that matters. So if the guy was going to pass me, I just let him by. I knew that I was going to have a better starting position. And for race 2, same thing. I just need to pass the slow guy first, and then hopefully they're gonna battle behind me. That's what I did. So not the slow guy. I'm sorry, I didn't say the slow guy. The guy that started in front of me. That's what happened. And luckily, I had the pace to keep Guillaume behind.
Looking forward to the rest of the season. We go to Road America, Interlagos, and CTMP to round out the rest of the season. Perhaps a run to the top of the championship might be a little bit out of reach, but what are the goals the next couple of rounds, and how far do you think you can climb up the points order here at Road America and beyond?
Honestly, I'm just happy with the win. I don't know if it's going to happen again. Don't know if I'm going to make the podium again, but I'm just happy. I know I have 2 tough races at the start of the season, so just happy to keep Porsche Center North Toronto in the broadcast. They're very nice people, and I'm just happy to be there in the broadcast and bring the victory to our Porsche Center.
Certainly a great race. Jan, thanks so much for talking to us. We'll see you at Road America. Congratulations to you in Porsche Center North Toronto.
Yeah, can I just say my thanks?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would just like thanks again, Porsche Center North Toronto. My teammate Chris, I know have a tough night tonight. Also my 2 teammates having practice, Tyler and Braden, and also Luana Pearson. And you guys as well for the nice podcast.
And before we let you go, wanted to ask you about Pure Sims. Of course, you've got them on the car as well. Tell us about that.
It was just a pretty nice team, I guess. They helped me practice as well. Chris, we're both in the same team. We were lucky to be on board on in the same Porsche Center. They took us. So yeah, I'm just happy, and again, happy to take the victory for Pearson.
All right, Jan, we'll see you next time. Congratulations. We'll see you in Wisconsin for round number 6.
All right, good night, guys.
Good night. All right, wrapping things up from this great racetrack here in Spa Francorchamps. This was an incredible night of action. Came down to the last lap for the battle for second and beyond. But it did get messy there at times, Jake. Maybe some penalties on the horizon as well. We'll have to see how things shake up in the points, but one last roll through the results.
Yeah, and I think what's key actually in terms of Jon getting through and getting his result is that he had to drive an elbows out start to the way that race went. It felt very touring car style in terms of what he needed, and the origin of that Pure Sim Esports team comes from an incredible champion in the British Touring Car Championship in Ash Sutton, who is perennial sim racer, has built a brilliant team, not just from where it began in the UK, just trying to build around the British sim racing scene, but then he's grown that out into, honestly, one of the big teams out there in the world. Pure Sim always seems to have a way to make something happen. They've got some incredible talent there. But when you consider what happened here around this race, victories in terms of championships are not defined by how much you win, but it's how good your bad results are. And I think this race has proven today that is a difference maker. Rachin Fazui in 12th could not afford that tonight. Antoine Le Charité got the biggest boatload of good luck that I think he's looked for in a very long time. And I tell you what, Road America, if Spa was anything to talk about here today, on an incredible weekend, which it will be for this area of the country, I think we're in for a real showcase of something very similar happening when we find ourselves to that brilliant Wisconsin track of Road America.
That's what's up next. It'll be May 4th at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's what's going to happen up next. We're going to skip next week, but we'll see you at Road America, the National Park of Speed, for the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada, one of my favorite places in the country. Can't wait to join you virtually here in iRacing. Big thanks again to Porsche, Tag Heuer, and Bose for being a part of the series, and for the drivers for putting on quite the show. Jake, thanks to you as well. We'll see you next time from Road America, May 4th, 2023.